Hello there. Thank you for joining. I'm excited to be here today to share Adobe's journey to the cloud for our corporate data platform. I'm excited to see so many attendees here and see the thriving community that DataOps has developed. Join me today as we take a journey to the cloud for Adobe's corporate data platform. Before we get too deep into the content, I want to do a quick introduction of me. I work in Adobe's IT organization. I'm an application engineering manager managing a team of data engineers and data scientists. When we're in the office, I'm based in the Lehi, Utah office, just south of Salt Lake City. As we were preparing for this presentation last week with Kunal and the Unravel team, Kunal shared a story about a colleague of his whose team built a data warehouse in the cloud, and at the end of that transition, all of the team members had quite a bit more gray hair than they did when they started. As I look at myself on camera here today, and I look at this headshot from just a couple years ago, I see there's already quite a bit more gray than there was just a couple years ago. So hopefully we don't end up a lot more gray by the end of this journey. In terms of the agenda, we'll do a quick introduction to Adobe to make sure everyone is familiar with the company and what's been going on. We'll talk about the challenges of our corporate data warehouse, some of the challenges we've been facing in terms of capacity, our vision for how we're going to solve that through our journey to the cloud. We'll talk through some of the pain points that some of our customers, some of the departments that are using our platform are experiencing. We'll talk about data and platform as a service. This is our brand name for Adobe's journey to the cloud. We'll talk a little bit about how Unravel and their data operations platform is really helping us along the way in this journey. We'll take a quick look at what our roadmap looks like. This is a journey where we're still in the early stages, so I want to lay out where we've come from and also where we're going. We'll talk about some of the lessons that we've learned so far in this journey. And then in the last few minutes, I'll open it up for a little bit of Q&A. Adobe was founded back in 1982 and is headquartered in San Jose, California. Today, Adobe has more than 22,000 employees worldwide. Just 10 years ago, when I started at Adobe, there were fewer than half of that many employees. That speaks somewhat to Adobe's monumental growth over the past decade. That growth, both in the number of solutions and services that Adobe's providing, the Creative Cloud, your traditional Photoshop and Illustrator creative tools, the Document Cloud, these are your PDF tools, your document solutions, your electronic signatures, and the Experience Cloud, your experience tools for creating experiences, digital experiences through content management and marketing solutions. The customer base for all of those solutions has grown astronomically. Our employee base, as I said, has grown tremendously. And that growth has led to significant challenges for managing all of the data and our data operations. We'll talk a little bit more here about some of those challenges and the journey to find a solution for some of those challenges. Our corporate big data warehouse is running on Hadoop in an on-premises environment. This platform is accessed by all of the business units virtually across the company. And as those business units have grown, as the number of employees across the company has grown, we've seen significant challenges in keeping up with that growth. Today in our platform, we have thousands of users, we have petabytes of data, and literally millions of monthly job executions. The biggest challenge is that we're simply running out of capacity. We don't have any more room in the data center after this year to deploy any additional infrastructure. We've just literally reached our limit. In order to try to help manage that, we've actually put growth quotas on all of the teams that are running workloads on our platform to not allow them to grow more than 20% this calendar year or we'll simply run out of capacity and won't have anything available for these teams to run all of their critical data workloads. Given all of these challenges, it became abundantly clear that we really need to migrate to the cloud. Here's just a quick look at a dashboard that we built to try to show the health of our Hadoop cluster. You can see on the far left, there were more than 1,000 active nodes as part of the cluster. The graph along the bottom, the green lines show the used compute capacity up against the black line at the top that shows the total capacity available. You can see that most of the time periods throughout the week, we're reaching very close to that capacity limit. The red line in this graph shows the runtime of a benchmark job that runs in our environment regularly to give us a sense for how healthy the environment is. You can see the significant changes in the runtime of that benchmark job. And that change in runtime is exactly what the customers of our platform are experiencing. A job that may run in 30 minutes one day may take 2 or 3 times that to run on another day. That's not a great experience for a customer of our platform and is something that we certainly need to solve, something we're setting out to solve as we start our journey into the cloud to make a platform that's much more scalable. In terms of the vision for our platform, we're calling our journey to the cloud data and platform as a service. Obviously critical. We need the compute resources, we need the storage resources, we need access to machine learning and data science models. But the data on that platform is just as important as the platform itself. That data is a valuable asset that all of our customers want access to, which is why we chose to call it data and platform as a service. In the first year of this journey, we obviously need to offload some of our on-premises workloads into the cloud. Given the limitations of our compute capacity, we really need to get some of that capacity in the cloud, but we've also defined a work stream to optimize the workloads that are going to remain on-premise for a while to try to reduce the compute resources that those take until we're able to get all of those workloads into the cloud. One of the other things that we found as we started to plan this migration is that it was really challenging to gather the insight that we needed to properly plan our migration. We didn't really fully understand all of the details of all of the workloads that were running on premises. We have so many different teams across the company that are running workloads. We didn't have all of the information about those workloads, the resources they used, the data assets that they leveraged. We were spending a lot of time having conversations with all of these teams to understand this information, and it just wasn't really scalable to be able to plan our entire migration to the cloud. So we needed to find a way to get some of those insights in a more automated manner. In addition to that, before we built out this platform in the cloud, we wanted to understand what our customers' biggest pain points were. We wanted to understand what was most important to them so that not only were we taking our infrastructure and moving it into the cloud, but we were going to solve some of their biggest pain points and meet some of their most important needs as we moved into the cloud. On the left-hand side of this, you'll see the severe pain points that our tenants or the departments that were working on this platform were facing. The lines with the longer blue sections are the most severe pain points. Given the limitations of our platform on-premise, it's no surprise that compute efficiency was one of the biggest pain points. Our customers needed to be able to scale their compute infrastructure according to whatever workloads they were running. The other ones that really jumped out were data quality and data discovery. As I mentioned, data is such a critical component of this platform. We need to make sure that it was easy and seamless for our customers to figure out what data was on the platform, which data asset was the one they needed to run their analytics or to build their data science model. On the right-hand side, you see the number one important cloud capability that jumped out, has the longest bright orange bar, was scale. Again, no surprise given our on-premises compute capacity limitations. We wanted to make sure we built a solution that encompassed a solution for all of these pain points and prioritized what was most critical for our customers. As we started to plan our journey to the cloud, we started to come up with a lot of questions that we needed answers to. As we were exploring which workloads does it make sense to move to the cloud first, we knew that we couldn't take a big bang approach and move everything all at once. Given the complexity of our environment, so one of the 3 C's that Kunal mentioned in his keynote, there was really no way to just move everything all at once. It was far too complex. So we had to figure out if there was a way that we could kind of sequence these workloads in a move to the cloud. Which workloads consume the most resources? Was it most advantageous to move those to the cloud first? Or was it better to move the ones that were simpler, had the fewest dependencies upstream and down? When these workloads made it into the cloud, we wanted to know, how much is it going to cost to run this workload in the cloud? What kind of infrastructure do we need in the cloud to run these workloads? Can we deploy a static set of infrastructure, or is it more cost-effective to scale this infrastructure up and down to meet the needs of the workloads that are running? These are all questions that we were asking, but we didn't have very good answers to. All of the problems that our customers were experiencing, all of their pain points, and all of those questions that we needed answered, all kind of came together to kind of start to build out the vision of our solution. As I mentioned, we're very early on in this journey still. We've finished all of our planning, and we're really now kind of hitting the ground running, building out some of our infrastructure. We don't yet even have a non-production infrastructure built. That's what our team are actively working on right now. But what I wanted to share with you today is this conceptual architecture for what we're envisioning building. I won't talk through all of the details of this slide. It'll be there for future reference. But a couple of key areas that I wanted to call out. Across the top, those are all of the personas that we're trying to cater to. On the left, the tenant admin. These are the people who are going to deploy the infrastructure, manage who has access to that infrastructure, and also be responsible for managing the cost of that infrastructure. They need to be able to see what's there, who's accessing it, and really how much is it costing me. Across the top to the right are some of the other personas that Kunal mentioned that are part of that key data ops strategy. But all of those different personas access the platform in a different way. The data engineer is building data pipelines. The data analyst and BI developer may need access to the platform, but they're not building any new data assets. They're building dashboards on top of what the data engineers have built. And the data scientists obviously need a whole different tool set to do the work that they're doing. We needed to make sure that our platform had services and capabilities that met the needs of all of those different personas. Across the bottom, you can see some of the core services, the basic infrastructure, the compute, the storage. Also, obviously, security is a core capability. We have to make sure that our data is secured. Only the people who are accessing it are those who are authorized to access the data. This is conceptually how we're planning our capabilities in the cloud. We'll take another slightly different look at what this infrastructure is going to look like. I share this to highlight a couple of items in the control plane box. Identity management, obviously a key part of the security access is making sure we know who's accessing the platform, what they should have access to. The data catalog, I mentioned in the customer pain points, data discovery was one of the key challenges that our customers called out. They need to be able to know what data is available on the platform. They need to know how to find it. Their search for that needs to be rather seamless. And then once they have access to that data, they need to make sure that that data is of high quality, that the data is complete, that the data is accurate. So data quality was one of the key capabilities that you can see in the next box to the right in the common services. Data lifecycle management was another area that we wanted to make sure that we focused, making sure that the data lives on the platform throughout its value lifecycle, but when that data no longer has value, when it's old enough that it isn't part of regular active use, we want to make sure that we're archiving or deleting or moving to cheaper storage. We want to make sure we're effectively managing the life cycle of that data. So as I said, we're not just trying to take our on-premises infrastructure, pick it up and move it into the cloud. We want to make sure we're adding more value-add services into this platform to solve some of the key pain points and key challenges that our customers have been facing. That's a quick look at what we're planning as far as our infrastructure capabilities and services go. But in terms of trying to answer some of the questions that I mentioned, how do I know which workloads I should migrate to the cloud first? Which workloads are consuming the most resources, and which would be the easiest to move to the cloud because they don't have as many dependencies? Those are insights that have been challenging to get, but we've been partnering with Unravel to try to help. Adobe's had a relationship with Unravel for a couple of years, and Unravel's been helping us to optimize some of our on-premises workloads. You can see there are a couple of statistics in how Unravel has been helping not only to optimize the workloads, but also to enable our people resources to be able to be more effective in doing root cause analysis when a job is failing or a job is running. Module has capabilities that allow you to analyze the workloads that are running on premises and not only have deep insights into what those workloads look like, but also what it might cost to run those workloads in the cloud. We're really getting ready to kind of take that next step in our cloud migration journey that partnered with Unravel. This is just an example of some of the insights that the Unravel Cloud Migration product can provide. Now, the costs here aren't actual. These are for illustrative purposes only. But what you can see here is I've used the Unravel tool to try to understand what does the workload when migrated to the cloud look like in terms of cost, and also understanding, are there ways that I could reduce the cost of that workload running in the cloud if I might not need to keep the same SLA that I had when that workload was running on premises? You can see that in this example, Unravel says to maintain 100% SLA, it's going to cost you this much to run your workload in the cloud. But if you don't need to maintain that SLA, you could save cost, you could reduce the cost of that workload by reducing your SLA, thereby reducing the infrastructure that's needed. This gives you the insight to start making some of those trade-off decisions. Do I need to maintain this SLA and incur these costs, or am I okay reducing my SLA and trying to achieve some cost savings? Another example of how Unravel is helping give us some of these insights is a look at what this workload might require in the cloud in an auto-scaling environment. Unravel looks at how this workload is running on premises and sees that for 1 hour during the day, every day, this workload requires significant resources. But for the rest of the day, the resource requirements are significantly reduced. This is the kind of workload that would make sense to deploy in the cloud in an auto-scaling model, where the infrastructure could scale up during that hour that the resource utilization was high, but then scale back down for the rest of the day. In this example, you can see that Unravel says by deploying this in an auto-scaling type environment, you could save more than 57% of the costs. These are some of the critical insights that we needed, and we're excited to partner with Unravel to leverage their product to understand our workloads and to start trying to forecast what's it going to cost when we run these in the cloud, and also what's the best infrastructure deployment, what's the best footprint for being cost effective and cost efficient when we're running these in the cloud. As I mentioned, we're early on in this roadmap. We know this is a journey. We anticipate a 3-year journey to really get all of our workloads into the cloud. This year, in 2021, we're anticipating migrating about 20% of our on-premises workloads into the cloud. Next year, another 35%. And by year 3, we anticipate having 85% of the workloads that are running on our on-premises infrastructure moved into the cloud. This year, we'll have our first critical milestone of this journey. In September this year, we plan to have our first production deployment, having built out some of our core infrastructure capabilities in the cloud, including some of the basics like our compute and storage, our basic security capabilities, and we'll have our first workload running in the cloud. Shortly thereafter, in October, we'll have continued to develop some of those value-added capabilities like data quality and data lifecycle management. And at that point, we'll be opening up this platform to all of the different departments and all of the different business units across Adobe that are using this. This is when we really expect to start seeing some of the value, because we can have a bigger crew, another one of the 3 C's that Kunal mentioned, who are now in parallel starting to migrate more of these workloads into the cloud. Even though we're still early in this journey, we've learned a few lessons that I wanted to share with you today. First, as I mentioned earlier, we had a really hard time understanding all of the workloads that were running on premises and figuring out how to get those workloads into the cloud. We had a real blind spot, and Unravel has really helped us to uncover some of the insights that we need, understanding the workload resources, interdependencies between workloads, to help us to plan our migration of those into the cloud. We've also learned that it's really important to have that migration analysis to be able to look at what this workload might cost when it runs in the cloud, and also to provide some cost and performance benefit analysis to say, maybe you don't need to keep the same SLA for this job. You might be able to reduce it and save some costs. Number 3, we've also learned that many of the workloads that were running on premises weren't necessarily optimized. We've asked every team across the company to start optimizing workloads first to make sure that our compute capacity stays available on our on-premises infrastructure, but also all of these workloads should be optimized before moving to the cloud so that we can make sure we're not incurring unnecessary costs when they're running in the cloud. And then finally, even though we don't have workloads in the cloud yet, we've realized that we want the same insights for those workloads when they're running in the cloud as we have today when they're running on premises. Again, this is an area where we can partner with Unravel to deploy some of their APM capabilities in the cloud so that when a workload migrates from on-premise to the cloud, we have the same insights about how is that workload running? Are there optimizations that could be made to make it more efficient and use resources more effectively? So we're excited to continue on this journey. We have a big objective for the year in getting the infrastructure deployed, getting 20% of our workloads migrated, and we're excited to partner with Unravel through this journey to give us some of the insights that we've been missing. So I'd like to open it up now for Q&A. There's a Q&A pod in the solution for the event. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, please feel free to drop those questions in the Q&A area. If I can't get to all of the questions, I'm certainly happy to follow up, answer some of those questions offline later, and share those answers with you offline following the presentation. As we wait for any questions to come in, I just want to say thank you again for being here today. I'm excited to share this journey with you, and I'm excited to be a partner of this data ops community so that we can all learn together and benefit from the tremendous information, the tremendous partnership, the tremendous knowledge that this data ops community can have. Thank you.